The stars had never looked closer. Commander Elias Vance stood on the observation deck of the UNS Resolute, watching streaks of distant light ripple faintly across the void. Humanity's first successful faster-than-light jump had just concluded, and Earth was celebrating. Every screen across the ship pulsed with congratulatory messages, global broadcasts, and voices filled with triumph. Elias didn't join them. He folded his arms, eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. "We just announced ourselves," he muttered. "Question is, to who?" Behind him, Lieutenant Mara Cade leaned against the console, grinning. "Come on, Commander. First jump, no casualties, engines intact. That's history." "History tends to get messy," Elias replied without turning. Before she could answer, the bridge alarms cut through the moment, sharp, urgent. "Contact!" a sensor officer shouted. The celebration died instantly. Elias moved fast. "Report. Multiple signatures, massive. Not ours. Not anything we've catalogued." The main display lit up, and for a moment, no one spoke. Two fleets hung in the darkness beyond Neptune, one arranged in precise geometric formations, glowing with cold blue light. The other moved like a living storm. Organic shapes writhing, shifting, pulsing as if breathing. "Unknown vessels?" Mara asked quietly. "Not unknown," Elias said, voice tightening. "Just not ours." A transmission officer raised a hand. "No response to hails. No acknowledgement." "Try again," Elias ordered. "Standard greeting. Peaceful intent." The message went out. Silence followed. Then everything changed. A beam, thin, white, almost delicate, lanced across space from the geometric fleet. It didn't aim for Earth. It didn't aim for the Resolute. It struck a small object drifting between them. The object ceased to exist. "Was that?" Mara began. "A scout probe," the sensor officer said, pale. "Ours." No explosion. No warning. Just gone. Elias exhaled slowly. "They're not targeting us." "That's supposed to be reassuring?" someone muttered. "No," Elias said. "It means we don't matter." The organic fleet surged forward, colliding with the other in a violent exchange of energy and matter. Weapons unlike anything humanity had imagined tore through space, fractures of light, rippling distortions, bursts that bent reality itself. "Helm," Elias snapped. "Take us behind the asteroid belt. Full silent running." The ship lurched into motion. Around them, the battle intensified. Neither side spared a glance for Earth's fleet. Humanity had stumbled into something vast, and utterly indifferent. Inside the belt, the Resolute cut power to non-essential systems. The ship drifted among rock and shadow. Mara leaned closer. "We should leave." "Now." Elias shook his head. "If we run blind, we learn nothing. If we stay, we might survive long enough to understand. And if we don't?" He met her eyes. "Then we were never in control to begin with." The fight outside escalated, then abruptly stopped. Space itself seemed to fold inward. 3 enormous vessels appeared without warning. They didn't arrive so much as impose themselves, silent, immense, ancient. Every other ship froze. Weapons powered down. Movement ceased. "New contacts," the sensor officer whispered. "They're overriding everything." A voice filled the bridge, calm, resonant, impossible to locate. "Conflict terminated. All parties stand down." The 2 warring fleets obeyed instantly. Elias straightened. "Who the hell are they?" No one answered. Moments later, another transmission arrived, this one directed at them. "Human vessel. You are summoned." Mara blinked. "Summoned?" Elias didn't hesitate. "Set course." The chamber dwarfed comprehension. Elias stood alone on a circular platform, surrounded by towering figures, some luminous, others obscured by shifting forms. The air felt heavy, as though the weight of centuries pressed down on him. At the center sat a being unlike the rest. Tall. Still. Watching. Identify yourself, it said. Commander Elias Vance. United Nations Fleet. Representing Earth. A pause. You represent a species newly entered into interstellar space, the being replied. You have trespassed into an active war zone. We didn't know, Elias said. We came in peace. Intent is irrelevant. Murmurs echoed through the chamber. Another voice spoke, sharp, dismissive. Primitive. Undisciplined. Their presence destabilizes the region. Elias stepped forward. With respect, we had no part in your conflict. We were nearly destroyed without provocation. You were not targeted, the central figure said. Exactly, Elias replied. We weren't even considered. That earned a flicker of attention. The central figure leaned slightly forward. You stand before the Galactic Council. I am High Arbiter Zyrelton. Elias held his ground. Zyrelton continued. Your world lies within a contested zone. Its continued existence increases the probability of escalation. Elias frowned. You're talking about Earth. We are. A silence stretched. Then, without ceremony. Earth is classified as a non-essential world. Elias felt the words land before he understood them. Zyrelton's voice did not change. It may be destroyed to preserve galactic stability. For a moment, Elias said nothing. Then, quietly, you're condemning billions. We are maintaining order. Elias clenched his jaw. You didn't even ask. Your species lacks the capacity to influence this outcome. Something in him hardened. Then you're wrong, he said. No one responded. The chamber faded. Back aboard the Resolute, Elias returned to a silent bridge. Every face turned toward him. Mara stepped forward. What did they say? Elias looked at the stars, at Earth, somewhere far behind them. They already made their decision, he said. A beat passed. They're going to erase us. Earth didn't get time to prepare. The first strike wasn't aimed. It didn't need to be. A Verilian cruiser, sleek and silent, carved through orbit while exchanging fire with a pursuing Thrax swarm. A beam meant for its enemy missed by degrees and sliced through a satellite grid above the Pacific. Thousands of fragments scattered, igniting into a burning halo that rained down in streaks of fire. Within minutes, panic spread across every continent. On the Resolute, Elias stood over the command display as alerts flooded in. Orbital losses, atmospheric breaches, communications collapsing in waves. They're fighting over us, Mara said, disbelief edging her voice. No, Elias replied, eyes fixed on the tactical map. They're fighting through us. A burst lit up over Eastern Europe, another exchange, another unintended hit. This time, the energy discharge reached ground level. The feed cut out before anyone spoke. Silence followed. Then Elias moved. Open a global channel. A technician hesitated. Commander, we don't have centralized authority anymore. Governments are. Then we become it, Elias said. Do it. Moments later, his voice carried across fractured networks, into bunkers, control rooms, and whatever systems still functioned. This is Commander Elias Vance. All remaining military assets, air, naval, orbital, fall under unified command effective immediately. If you can hear this, you're not alone. Follow my signal. He cut the transmission and turned back to his crew. Status on fleet? Scattered, the operations officer replied. Some ships responding. Most damaged. Elias nodded once. We don't need many. We need enough. Hours later, a handful of vessels regrouped near the moon, old frigates, retrofitted carriers, anything still capable of movement. They looked insignificant against the backdrop of alien warships crossing space like predators. Mara studied the display. We can't match them. Not in speed, not in firepower. I know, Elias said. So we don't try. He zoomed in on a cluster of debris drifting between two combat zones. We use what they ignore. The first human strike was quiet. A damaged Thrax vessel separated briefly from its swarm, drifting while its structure reformed. To the aliens, it was routine. To Elias, it was an opening. 3 human ships, engines dampened, coasted through a cloud of wreckage. Hulls cold, signatures masked. They looked like corpses. Distance? Elias asked. 500 kilometers, Mara answered. They haven't reacted. Good. Hold until 300. The bridge felt tight, every breath measured. At 300, Elias gave the order. Now. Engines flared. Human ships surged forward at full thrust. Missiles launched at close range, primitive by alien standards, but fast enough at that distance. The Thrax vessel responded, but too late. Explosions rippled across its surface. Its organic shell convulsed, ruptured, and collapsed inward. For a moment it hung suspended, then disintegrated. Silence filled the bridge. Target neutralized, the weapons officer said, almost uncertain. Mara let out a breath. We actually. Move! Elias cut in. Before its friends notice. They vanished back into the debris field. Elsewhere, the reaction came swiftly. Virelian ships adjusted formation, scanning more aggressively. The Thrax swarm tightened, movements sharper, less chaotic. They're adapting, Mara observed. So are we, Elias replied. Back on Earth, the situation worsened. Cities burned. Infrastructure collapsed. Every broadcast carried the same images: fire in the sky, shadows crossing the sun, impacts that shook continents. A civilian transmission broke through, raw, unfiltered. Is anyone fighting back? Elias watched the feed in silence. Mara glanced at him. You don't have to answer that. Yes, I do. He opened the channel again. We are, he said. And we're not done. The next operation came harder. A Virelian scout wing had begun isolating human ships, picking them off with precision. Elias studied their patterns, timing, spacing. They expect us to scatter, he said. So we don't. He gathered what remained of his fleet, small, fragile, but coordinated. When the Virelians moved in, they found something different. Human ships didn't flee. They converged. Crossfire erupted at close range. Virelian vessels, built for order and distance, struggled to respond to erratic movement. Human pilots pushed beyond safe limits, sharp turns, sudden bursts, unpredictable angles. One Virelian ship fell. Then another. The rest withdrew, formation disrupted. On the Resolute, a stunned quiet settled. They're pulling back, Mara said. Elias nodded slowly. They're learning we're not background noise. Far beyond the battlefield, the Galactic Council observed. Streams of data unfolded before them: human maneuvers, alien losses, shifting patterns. One voice broke the stillness. They interfere beyond projected capacity. Another responded colder. Interference is not significance. At the center, Zyrelton remained motionless. Continue observation, the Arbiter said. Back near Earth, Elias stood alone for a moment, watching the scattered remnants of battle drift in silence. Mara approached quietly. We won 2 engagements. That's not nothing. No, Elias said. It's not enough either. She studied him. You think they'll stop? He shook his head. No. But they'll start paying attention. He looked toward Earth, scarred, burning, still there. That's when it gets harder. The discovery came from the ocean. It wasn't a signal at first, just a pattern buried in seismic noise. Repeating pulses beneath the Pacific Trench, too regular to be natural, too deep to be artificial by human standards. The data reached the Resolute in fragments, stitched together by exhausted analysts who barely understood what they were seeing. Mara brought it to Elias without ceremony. You need to look at this. He studied the projection, layers of Earth's crust peeled back into glowing contours. At the center, far below the seabed, something pulsed. Not heat. Not radiation. Something else. Source? He asked. Unknown, Mara said. But both alien fleets have shifted their formations around it. Elias zoomed out. The pattern was obvious now. Every major engagement circled the same region. Not random. Not accidental. They're not fighting near Earth, he said quietly. They're fighting for something inside it. Hours later, a deep-sea probe transmitted its final feed. The image was unstable, distorted by pressure and interference. Still, the shape was unmistakable, a vast structure embedded in rock, smooth and geometric, emitting faint waves of energy that bent the surrounding water. The feed cut to static. Silence followed. Mara exhaled slowly. That's what they want. Elias nodded. And we've been standing on it the whole time. The shift in alien behavior came fast. No more stray fire. No more accidental damage. Virelian ships began precise orbital strikes, targeting access points along tectonic fault lines. The Thrax swarm descended in coordinated waves, burrowing through the ocean with terrifying efficiency. They've stopped ignoring us, Mara said. They've stopped pretending, Elias replied. Earth's defenses fractured under the pressure. Coastal cities vanished beneath rising water and collapsing crust. Naval fleets were overwhelmed before they could respond. Every attempt to secure the trench failed. On the Resolute, the tactical display flickered with red markers. We can't hold them, the operations officer said. Not at this scale. Elias didn't answer immediately. His eyes remained on the pulsing structure beneath the ocean. What if we don't try? He said at last. Mara turned to him. That's not an option. It is if holding it isn't the goal. She frowned. Then what is? Elias looked up. Making them fight each other for it. The plan sounded reckless when he explained it. We draw both sides in, he said, pacing slowly. Make them believe we're trying to extract or weaponize the source. And then? Mara asked. Then we let them collide. She shook her head. They're already fighting. Not like this, Elias replied. Right now, they're careful. Calculated. We push them into the same space, at the same time, over something they can't afford to lose. And we're in the middle of that, she said. We've been in the middle since the beginning. Execution began within hours. Human ships descended toward the trench, broadcasting openly for the first time since the war began. Signals were crude but intentional, simulated energy readings, false extraction data, anything that suggested progress. They'll see through it, Mara said. Not entirely, Elias replied. They don't think like we do. They'll see risk. Sure enough, the reaction came. Virelian fleets tightened formation, moving to intercept. The Thrax swarm accelerated, converging from multiple vectors. They're taking the bait, the sensor officer reported. Elias watched the trajectories align. Hold position. Commander, Mara began. Hold. The battlefield formed above the Pacific. Two alien forces closed in, drawn by the same signal. Human ships hovered near the trench, vulnerable, exposed. At the last moment, Elias gave the order. All units scatter. Maximum thrust. The fleet broke apart instantly, diving away from the center. The aliens didn't stop. Virelian ships opened fire on the Thrax, interpreting their movement as aggression. The swarm responded with overwhelming force. Within seconds, the space above Earth became a storm of energy and motion. They're fully engaged, Mara said. Elias nodded. Now we finish it. The final step required precision. A small team deployed a series of charges along the trench, devices designed not to destroy the structure, but to disrupt its output. Detonation in 10 seconds, the engineer's voice crackled. Elias watched the countdown. 5, 4. The alien battle intensified, both sides pushing closer to the source. 3, 2. Do it. The ocean lit up. A surge of energy erupted from the trench, not explosive but expansive, a wave that rippled outward, distorting space itself. Ships caught too close faltered, systems failing, formations collapsing. Virelian vessels lost cohesion. Thrax organisms convulsed, their collective link disrupted. The battle broke. Not with a single moment, but with a cascading failure. They're pulling back, Mara said, disbelief in her voice. Elias didn't move. They're retreating because they have to. Far above, beyond the chaos, the Galactic Council observed once more. Data streams shifted rapidly, alien losses, human interference, the disruption of a conflict that had raged unchecked. One voice spoke, sharper than before. The human species has altered the outcome. Another responded, uneasy. They introduce instability at an unacceptable level. At the center, Cyrelton watched in silence. Back on the Resolute, the bridge remained quiet. We didn't win, Mara said softly. No, Elias agreed. But neither did they. He looked at the fading signatures of retreating fleets. That's the problem. Mara glanced at him. For them? For everyone. He exhaled, gaze drifting toward Earth below, scarred, wounded, still alive. They won't ignore us again. Earth drifted under a silent gun. No alarms screamed this time. No scattered fleets. No chaotic war spilling through orbit. Everything had gone still in a way that felt worse than battle. Above the planet, the Galactic Council had arrived in full formation. Their vessels didn't announce themselves. They replaced the sky. On the UNS Resolute, the bridge lights dimmed under the weight of incoming transmission fields. Every console locked into the same signal. Mara spoke first, barely above a whisper. They're positioning for planetary collapse. Elias didn't look away from the display. They're done observing. A new channel opened automatically. Cyrelton. The Arbiter's voice carried without distortion, as if space itself obeyed it. Human Commander Elias Vance. Your species has been evaluated beyond initial parameters. Elias stepped forward. Then you know we didn't start this war. You are not judged by origin, Cyrelton replied. Only by consequence. The projection expanded, data cascading across the bridge. Alien losses. Disrupted fleets. The trench incident. The energy source destabilization. Another council voice cut in. Your interference escalated a contained conflict into systemic instability. Elias clenched his jaw. Contained? You call that contained? Two civilizations tearing through a populated system like it didn't exist? No response. Only silence. Then Cyrelton spoke again. Earth is classified as a destabilizing variable. Mara stiffened. That's what they called us before. Elias didn't move. Say it plainly. The Arbiter paused. Earth will be eliminated to preserve galactic equilibrium. The words landed clean, final, absolute. For a moment, no one aboard the Resolute spoke. Then Elias exhaled. Not in fear. In recognition. So that's it, he said quietly. We survived long enough to matter, and now we matter too much. Mara turned to him. Elias. He raised a hand. No. He looked at the transmission. Open all channels. The comms officer hesitated. All channels? That includes council-wide bandwidth. Do it. Across Earth, every surviving screen flickered. Across alien fleets, every receiver locked in. Across the council itself, attention shifted. Elias stood alone at the center of a collapsing galaxy's judgment. This is Commander Elias Vance, he began. No title. No diplomacy. No appeal. You came here expecting a species that would accept erasure because it was ordered. You miscalculated. A pause. You didn't just find humans in your war zone. You built your war around us. On the bridge, Mara watched him carefully. He's not negotiating, she murmured. No, the communications officer said. He's declaring. Elias continued. You call us unstable. You're right. We adapt under pressure. We change. We break rules you built before we ever existed. He leaned closer to the console. But let me ask you something. A beat. Did your perfect order end your war? No answer. Because ours did. That line shifted something. Across the council, Data streams slowed. Alien observers recalculated. Varelian remnants hesitated. Thrax nodes fragmented. Elias pressed on. You came to erase a problem. Instead, you watched two civilizations collapse their own war because of us. His voice lowered. And now you're afraid of what that means. Cyrelton responded at last. Fear is irrelevant. Elias shook his head slightly. No. It's the only thing that's honest in this room. A long silence followed. Then another council voice emerged, uncertain. The human species exhibits nonlinear strategic behavior. It cannot be predicted within acceptable margins. Elias smiled faintly. We call that survival. The chamber above Earth shifted. Not physically, but politically. For the first time, disagreement moved through the council. Elimination remains the safest course. One voice insisted. Another countered. They stabilized an uncontrolled war. They are the source of instability. No, Cyrelton said, finally louder. They are the proof that instability cannot be eliminated. That sentence changed everything. Elias felt it before he heard it. The pause that followed, heavier than any weapon. On the bridge, Mara stepped closer. Is that good or bad? Elias didn't answer immediately. Above them, the planetary execution fleet began to reconfigure. Weapons powered down. Not withdrawn. Held. Cyrelton addressed him directly. Human Commander. Your species is no longer categorized as expendable. Elias narrowed his eyes. That's not mercy. No, the Arbiter agreed. It is containment. A final directive followed. Earth will be designated as a protected but monitored system. Access restricted. Influence contained. Mara let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. We're alive. Elias didn't relax. That's not survival, he said. He looked at the fading council formations. That's observation. The transmission ended. Above Earth, the colossal alien presence shifted away, not defeated, not allied, simply recalibrating. The sky returned slowly, like something reluctant to leave. Hours later, silence returned to the bridge. Mara finally spoke. They didn't destroy us. Elias stood at the viewport, Earth below fractured but intact. No, he said. They classified us. She frowned. Is there a difference? He watched the planet turn. Yes, he said. Now they'll study what we become. A pause. And that means we're not done yet. Outside, Earth kept spinning, unbroken, watched, and no longer ignored.